I think many topics might come along in the Q&A session, isn't it?
And we have an expert panel coming up next.
Well, great. Well, Darrick and I can take it from here. The next section that we're going to launch into is just from a IDefine perspective of what our organizational priorities are around fundraising, kind of the why we want to fundraise, how we're going to fundraise, and Darrick's going to be kind of my partner here. But just in general, what is IDefine existing for as far as how we're going to invest? And at the top of the docket here is coordinated care. So we've talked about the Cleefster Clinic at BCH, and we launched kind of as an organization on September 17th, and that day is resonates with our community because it's Cleefster Syndrome Awareness Day. And we decided to launch there intentionally with a focused goal in mind right out of the gate. And our focused goal out of the gate, the original campaign that we did, was to raise money to develop this coordinated care Cleefster Clinic at Boston Children's Hospital. And we had a number of families participate, and we were able to reach our goals in 2 weeks. And so it's highly encouraging because we understand that this is a pain point for the community. We understand the need. And as an organization, when we hear needs come forward from the community, it's obviously our objective to address those needs. That's what the relationship is all about. And so the key component, as we've discussed in other conversations throughout the day, has been to develop further centers. So it's not just kind of Boston. I just saw a chat come in about California, and I think we have over 25 Cleefster families in California. And so again, we really need to understand and have participation in our registries and natural history studies so we can really understand where families are located. And that'll allow us to understand where we go next. And not only do we need to know where the families are, but we need to know where there's an interested team. And so if you're living in an area and you have a really solid multidisciplinary team that has an interest in Cleefster syndrome, we want to talk to those folks. We want to see if they have the potential to be one of those centers of excellence for us. And then we want to work together with the community to fundraise so that we can support that. And just as a proof of concept, our folks down in Australia, the Kouris, we have been in extensive conversations with Sydney Children's Hospital and led by Emma Palmer down there. And Emma's another just wonderful human being who's incredibly intelligent and has a passion for this. She's on our team, she's part of our community. And so we have a proposal from them to build out this multidisciplinary clinic focused on Cleefster syndrome. So the challenge and the roadblock there is funding. They need to be funded. And so that's going to be where we dedicate a lot of our energy for and develop campaigns around, is developing these centers of coordinated care. So part two is, as Eric alluded to, and you've heard folks discuss the different opportunities that exist out there, is we need to build out this preclinical kind of toolkit. And so throughout the course of the past year, we've heard that we need to build a toolkit as a community. And in that toolkit, we've talked about it on some of the other webinars, you have to have the registry, you have to have the natural history study, you need to have some proof of concepts with animal models, you need to develop cell lines. All these things in our toolkit will allow us to accelerate that preclinical work so that then we can turn it over to and develop partnerships to further the research, right? And so a lot of what we're doing as far as our SAB is concerned is identifying those priorities, identifying the researchers who could potentially do the work, and then start going through the process of getting those proposals. And so that's where the kind of rubber meets the road. Is the sad truth is money makes the world go round to a degree. So we're going to have to figure out ways from grants or from funding opportunities to be able to raise enough capital to be able to invest in this and accelerate the research. And the last kind of mission statement, which all three of these align perfectly with our pillars of the organization, and it's community engagement and outreach. And for that, it's putting on conferences, it's doing global events, it's going to conferences, it's raising awareness. When we started out on this journey and talked to hundreds of researchers over the past year, a lot of folks aren't familiar with Cleefster syndrome. They're not familiar with EHMT1. And one of our goals here is to raise the profile of our condition, because as you heard, I believe it was Dr. Saheen earlier and Eric referenced, is that we know that this condition is actually a perfect model system, so to speak. It's just we have one good copy, and we need to either boost that good copy or figure out how to, increase the output. And so that is a great model system that we could utilize not only to understand how to make improvements with Kleefstra syndrome, but there is the thought that we might be able to collaborate with other organizations and have shared learning. And so if you've heard the word methyltransferase, there's several conditions that have methyltransferase, and one might be able to hypothesize that efforts in EHMT1 might be able to help them. You heard Kabuki syndrome mentioned earlier. That's another organization that we're having discussions with because there's some similarities. So that's kind of our mission and where we would direct our investments. And I'm going to turn it over to Darrick now to talk about how we get there.
Thanks, Geoff, and good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. What a wonderful day. Over the course of the past 12 to 14 months, those of us who have come together as IDefine, we're looking forward to a day like this. This is a monumental day for us, and we're so thankful for the doctors, the researchers, the scientists, and most important, the families for taking the opportunity to join us today. So thank you on behalf of the IDefine team. We're really, really excited. So as Geoff mentioned, my name's Darrick Reed. I am father to Brianna. She is our wonderful, joyful, just pure soul of a human being, 8-year-old daughter with Kleefstra syndrome. And she means the world to my wife, Tiffany, and I. And like many of you, we went through quite a diagnostic odyssey to get to the point of getting a diagnosis of Kleefstra syndrome, which we did in 2018 at the age of 5. Countless hospital visits, meeting with every medical professional that we could in the central part of the United States, and we just couldn't find answers. But ultimately, we chose to do advanced genetic testing and got to a point where we did get Kleefstra syndrome. I came home, get the diagnosis. I came home one day, and my wife was in tears, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she said, "Well, we know what it is now. We have a name for it." And so after researching that evening and a few tears shed, the next morning we both looked at each other and said, it's time to get to work. Very similar to Geoff's approach, very action oriented on how can we help our child as well as every other child in the world with Kleefstra syndrome live the best life they can, impact the world in a positive fashion, and maximize their potential. So through a series of fortuitous events, as Geoff had shared previously, the IDefine team came together, and we are really, really excited to be here with you today. And I do want to mention real quick prior to hopping into the fundraising initiatives, Geoff Rhyne, we won't have an opportunity to do this, but I do want to highlight Geoff and the impact that he has had on so many families already. Geoff, I've worked with and been around a lot of people in my career, and he is the most passionate, genuine, relentless person I have worked with in my career, and I could not think of a better person to help lead this effort on behalf of the community in collaboration with so many other folks. But just a tremendous amount of gratitude, and Geoff, thank you for all that you're doing for all of us. It's truly impressive. So thank you for that. So anyways, I do want to hop into fundraising. As Geoff mentioned, with any nonprofit, fundraising is an effort. Whether it be a large nonprofit like Red Cross or Cystic Fibrosis Foundation or a new nonprofit like us, funding is a core tenet that needs to be in place for us to achieve what we intend to achieve. So, but it's especially even more so in the rare space. So many of us as parents have heard, that the number of diagnosed cases globally, it's somewhere between 500 and 1,000. So we are a rare disorder. We are a small community. The reality of that being, we will likely not get the attention of big pharma. We will likely not get the attention of investors with deep pockets, because the return on investment for folks in investing in our syndrome is not there when it comes down to dollars and cents. So we've had to build out what we feel like is an effective fundraising strategy, and we will be relentless in this approach. And we've come out of the gates fairly strong, which we feel good about. But to achieve what we need to achieve, it will essentially require millions of dollars, and we will get there. And so I want to walk you through our plan of how we intend to get there. So we have three pillars identified from a fundraising perspective. The first is peer-to-peer fundraising. That's more of a grassroots effort associated with families, community members, things of the like. The second is corporate social responsibilities, often referred to as CSR dollars. I'll get into that more here in just a bit. And then the third pillar is grants. So let's hop into peer-to-peer fundraising. So many of you likely know this, and many of you have already done peer-to-peer fundraising, which we certainly appreciate. But peer-to-peer fundraising is defined as a social, team, or personal fundraising method in which your supporters raise money in support of your cause. And I want to share a few statistics with you. In 2019, the top 30 P2P campaigns in the world raised a collective $1.37 billion. Not necessarily related to Kleefstra syndrome. We hope to get there at some point, but as it relates to peer-to-peer campaigns around the world. So it is an effective fundraising strategy when you have a good plan and you have a good path to success. How do we get there? So a lot of cases, it revolves around events. Those events may consist of walk-and rolls, galas, golf tournaments, wine tasting events, silent auctions, birthday parties. And in the midst of a global pandemic, virtual events have taken off even more and more. As Geoff previously mentioned, we have done a tremendous amount of benchmarking with other long-term, successful, stable nonprofit organizations to learn best practices. And just this year, everyone said, hey, virtual is a big part of where fundraising is as the world stands today. And as a matter of fact, we've had some families who have run some virtual fundraising efforts via Facebook, via Twitter, et cetera. We had a family who dropped a quick campaign on Facebook, and family and friends raised $3,500 fairly quickly. So there are some quick hitting opportunities to raise funds just through friends and family and those that care about your child or your adult. So that's the events. I'll get into more of that here in just a bit. The second the next topic I want to mention is a campaign that we officially launched about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we're calling it our Roundup for Rare campaign. So we partnered with an organization. It's an app. And essentially, you can plug in your credit card. It's a secure environment. We've vetted every piece of the relationship out. But you could plug in a credit card, and every time you swipe a transaction, that the cents that were not used, that the roundup of that money would be directed to IDefine and directly to the cause of helping our kids and adults as we pursue our mission. So very simple and very easy to get engaged with. I've signed up. We've had a number of others signed up. But if you tend to use credit cards for purchases, and say you buy something for $19.50, that 50 cents remaining over would go over to IDefine at the end of the month, and we would put that money to use in a very good, very responsible fashion. So that's kind of a quick, easy opportunity there. I believe Margot or Geoff's going to drop into the chat how to sign up for that if you choose to do so. The other area I want to touch on is just some key upcoming dates where it makes a lot of sense to rally around on these peer-to-peer fundraising efforts. So Rare Disease Day is coming up this month on February 28th. And for those of you that are plugged into the Rare community, many foundations use this as a milestone date to lead fundraising efforts. I know we're close up on that, but that would be a good opportunity if you chose to do so. To host an event, to do a virtual event, and highlight that special day for our kiddos. And then obviously Kleefstra Syndrome Day on September 17th annually. We plan to do some large events around Kleefstra Syndrome as well. But just if you are interested in fundraising, that would be a day to mark on your calendar and put some thought into on potentially wrapping an event around that date as well. The next bullet point I want to highlight is just the importance of being stronger together. We are a small community at the end of the day. This is a very exclusive club of KS parents and family members. And with that, you don't have 100,000 people diagnosed that you can go to and seek out fundraising efforts, et cetera. But if you break the numbers down, it truly does make sense. So as an example, many of us have heard number of diagnosed cases globally is 500. If we had all 500 families in the world raise $500 a year, that equates to $250,000 annually. That adds up fairly quickly. And trust me, I understand everyone's in a different position based on where you're at in the world, but whether it's $50, whether it's $5,000, but I think this just demonstrates the power of strength in numbers, and the more participation, the more those numbers tend to climb. And the last bullet point on this section I want to highlight is we are here to help. So if you have any questions, hey, I'd like to do it, I just don't know how. That's what we're here for. We're hosting a fundraising workshop. I'll touch on that here in just a bit. Fundraising 101 here coming up in a couple of weeks that we'll walk through some best practices. We built out playbooks, we built out guidelines, and we have access to others, industry experts that can help us guide us down a path as well. If you have any questions on that, our email is listed there. Our primary email, unlock@idefine.org. Would love to hear from you if you're interested or have any questions at all around these topics. So the next I'm going to hop on is corporate matching programs. So this is a tremendous opportunity, and a lot of folks don't know about it, and there's a lot of unused, unclaimed dollars that corporations contribute to good causes on an annual basis. So corporate social responsibility, again, many times referred to as CSR programs. The definition, a self-regulating business model that helps a company be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders, and the public. 65% of Fortune 500 companies offer matching gift programs for their employees. I'll share a very quick example. Our family hosted a walk and roll event for the second year in a row this year, and we call it Brianna's Brigade, and we have family members come and community members and teachers and therapists, and it's just been a really heartwarming experience for us and our daughter. But we raised a certain amount of money, and then I go to my company, and this year they matched $8,000 towards what we had raised. So in a lot of cases, there are some fairly lucrative opportunities out there that folks just aren't aware of. So again, we're here to help with that. We have a list of the companies in America, what their programs look like, and it doesn't necessarily have to just be a parent. It could be an uncle, a cousin, a retiree. Many times these programs carry over for retirees who used to work for a large company. We've had some good contact with folks that work at GE, as an example, who are working to help us get plugged into their program. But if you or a relative works for a large company, please reach out to us. We'd love to see if there's an opportunity to leverage that avenue as well. But again, a couple of key statistics. Over 18 million individuals work for companies with gift matching programs. So you probably know someone who does, whether it be a friend, relative, etc., that works for a company that has a CSR program. And it's as simple as, hey, you raise $5,000 through a local walk and roll, the company will match $5,000. Doubling the donation is, it's just a great avenue to accelerate fundraising efforts fairly quickly. The next stat I'll highlight just again quickly is between $4 and $7 billion in matching gift funds go unclaimed each year, and a lot of it's just lack of awareness. Folks don't understand that benefit exists inside their organization, or they don't know the internal process of how to sign up for that. And again, we're here to help with that. We have had conversations with a company called Double the Donation. They are experts in this space, and we've got access to other resources to kind of track down what that looks like. So that's the CSR piece, and again, a big piece. When you see $4 to $7 billion out there unclaimed, I would love $4 billion to go towards our effort as a Cleveland community. Understanding that's not possible, but if we can get a portion of that to help us drive forward with our mission, that would be certainly appreciated. The next slide I'll touch on is grants. So we have been in touch with a Cleveland mom who is going to school for grant writing, and she's willing to help out with some grant writing opportunities. Grants are typically broken down into federal, state, local, and community, and it's a fairly repeatable process once you get kind of the framework built out. So many of these grant application processes are highly competitive. You have to tell a compelling story, which we, again, will certainly help with. But once you have it kind of written once, you can duplicate that effort across multiple grants. So examples that exist out there, NORD is an organization, National Organization for Rare Disorders. They issue grants. The National Institute of Health issues grants. Global Genes issues grants as well. So if anybody out there has an interest in or experience in grant writing, we currently are trying to build that fundraising committee, and this is a bit of a gap for us. We have one person who's raised their hand, and which we're really excited about. But again, just another avenue that that I think we can capitalize on as an organization. So anyways, how to get involved. This is my last slide, but how to get involved. So if you're interested in donating today, we would ask, please consider visiting our nonprofit website at www.idefine.org. Click on Donate Now. There's options there for one-time or recurring options. If you choose to do so, we would certainly appreciate that. Much of what we're doing today, the Cleefster Clinic that we've established, all the plans that we laid out, they will be dependent on fundraising. And trust me, we will be relentless in our individual pursuits. We as a board have reached out to countless individuals globally that we feel like may have an opportunity to impact us, and that will not stop. We will be relentless in our approach in chasing down those dollars, but support from you all is welcome and appreciated as well. The Roundup for Rare campaign I mentioned on a previous slide. If you do have an interest in getting involved there, the link is listed there as well. We do have openings currently to volunteer on our fundraising committee as we can continue to build out a volunteer of armies, or an army of volunteers, I'm sorry, as we like to say. If you have an interest in fundraising and would like to participate in organizing events, if you have an event planning background, a sales background, or just an overall interest in helping fundraising efforts, please reach out to us. And again, we would be incredibly grateful for additional support there. We will be hosting a fundraising workshop on February 24th at 1 o'clock Eastern. I believe that link is going to be dropped into the chat function now. So if you're interested, I would encourage you real time, register for that. We will take feedback in the forum in terms of what specifically you would like to learn about as it relates to fundraising. And then we will cater the content of the event to what folks would like to learn in that event. So that's an upcoming opportunity. And I do want to recognize real quick, just we've had some powerhouse fundraisers that have really, really helped us come out of the gates. The Corey family out of Australia hosted a cycling event followed by a silent auction, and they raised $28,000. And they did that very independently on their own and reached out to us and said, hey, here's what we're doing. And we said, awesome, how can we help? And we had some great interactions, and it was just a very successful event. The Lockwoods in Michigan raised $15,000 virtually. The Metzgers raised close to just over $20,000 virtually. The family of Mason Harrell, they've been great contributors with one-time donations that have just made a big, big impact on the organization. And there's so many others. Many of you on this call have contributed, and we want you to know how grateful we are for that. Whether it's $25, whether it's $500, whether it's $5,000, every bit helps. Because again, nonprofits, typically one of the largest challenges is funding. So this will continue to be a priority for us. And we, again, will be relentless in our approach to seek out additional funding. But we're open to ideas. If you have ideas, if you have connections, relationships, input around fundraising opportunities, please reach out to us at unlock@idefine.org. And I just can't tell you how much we're thankful for the support that we've seen thus far. The support that we've seen thus far is why we're here together today. BCH certainly contributed some significant effort as well, but a big part of it came from the community. That's why we're able to have events like this, which hopefully has been beneficial for a lot of folks. And we plan on many more events, many more opportunities. Our dream is to find a cure for our kids and adults with KS, and we will pursue that with a relentless passion, and fundraising will be a big part of that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for a great day, and I will kick it back over to you, Geoff.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darrick. Yeah, I mean, it's been just incredible seeing some of folks just pour themselves into the effort, and ultimately it's all for our kids. I mean, it is all for these adults and these children with Cleefster syndrome, and trying to create an opportunity for them to realize their potential. We know that sometimes there's this potential inside of them that we just want to bring out. And that's why, you know, for our slogan, we say unlock the potential. And I didn't even prompt Sid earlier. He said that, and I documented it. So thank you, Sid. Next, we're going to be moving into the expert panel with Mira Modi, I believe is going to be moderating that. So I'll turn it over to her.